Hi, assalamu alaikum. It's been a while since I posted, and I wanted to share what's been going on. About 3 years ago, at the age of 53, this was before I reverted, I began to realize that I needed a change. My children had moved to New York for college. I was in a career that no longer fulfilled me, and I lived in a state that had become unbearably oppressive, both politically and personally. I began reading the Quran, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided me to Islam. But I was still the same person. I was still struggling with depression and anxiety and fear about the future. But now I had Allah with me. Well, I always had Allah with me, but I finally recognized His presence. And I began to try to undo some of my own low self-worth, because I figured that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saw me worthy of being guided to Islam, then maybe, just maybe, I was valuable. And then I read something by al-Iskandari that absolutely blew my mind. And when Allah unfolds a realm of knowledge for you, get rid of the feeling that you are not qualified for that in terms of deeds. He, Allah, opened that up for you because He wanted to make Himself known to you. If Allah decides to bless the servant with knowledge of Him, then there is no point in his or her assessment that he or she was not sufficient or deserving of such a blessing. And no reciprocation on His part will be enough to measure up to what He, Allah, has bestowed on him, her. The servant's anxiety over not being able to give back is totally misplaced. His knowledge of Allah will be more powerful than his deeds in defining the course of his life. So I decided to work on replacing my lack of belief in myself with belief of Allah, belief in Allah and His clear love of me. So in the last month, I quit my job. I sold my home in Florida. I drove 22 hours with my dogs, and now I'm in a relative's home in New York. And just yesterday, I went into New York City to look for an apartment, and alhamdulillah, the first place I looked at was perfect. And as I left, I was on the subway, and I sat next to a niqabi who I noticed was listening to the Quran on her phone, and I too was listening to the Quran on my phone. And I kind of tilted my phone to her, and I gave her a little nod, and her eyes lit up with a smile, and I smiled back, and I just knew right then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was right there with me on a crowded subway filled with all this beauty and diversity that only New York City has, and this heavy weight that had been sitting on my chest for months, for years, lifted. I had asked Allah for guidance. I had prayed daily, and I had asked Him to lead me on what would be the best path for joy for me and service to Him. And I feel like my du'as have been answered. Alhamdulillah.